So, all right. So, hello everyone. We are going to be talking about memes. It's Joe and I today, and that's it. I know you all are getting ready for spring break, so we'll try to make this short and sweet. The way I want to start, though, is I just want to let you all know if you haven't seen your grades for your papers, they went up last night. You should be able to see my annotations both in the comment box as well as on your actual paper. So if you're not able to see the annotations, please look at them because I put a lot of work into trying to make you a better writer, and it's really important that you look at them. Generally, you all did fine. If you missed points, it might have been like you needed a quote from the textbook, or maybe the directions, you didn't really follow them, like you missed key quotes from the debates, that sort of stuff. But look at my annotations, and that will fill in any of those questions that you have. And then email me, and I'm happy to answer those in more detail. All right, so let's go ahead and get started by talking about memes today. So let me share with you my PowerPoint. Let's see, I think this is the right one. Okay. Give me just a second here. Okay. Sorry. For some reason, this isn't coming up. There's something in the way. Hold on a sec. There we go. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about meta memes. So this article focused on Hillary Clinton and her use of meta memes in response to something called Text from Hillary. So we'll get to all of those examples in just a little bit, but something I want to make sure that we establish in today's discussion, we'll get a working definition of memes, and then we'll talk about what a meta meme is and how politicians utilize them to sort of make their own brand. And the next thing we'll get into are the other theoretical frameworks, so post-feminism and political fragmentation. So this stuff will help you help respond to the reading comprehension questions that you had. And then finally, we'll get to the examples and talk just a second about what you are going to be doing in order to apply this reading. All right, so let's start with memes and what they are. So this is weird because for most of us, we don't have a working definition of memes, but memes are units of cultural transmission that replicate and evolve, right? So memes could actually be not just the sort of traditional notion of like a picture with some thought on it. Memes can be other ways of joking around, but in today's conversation, we'll just focus on the traditional things that we share on social media. The thing that's important about memes is that memes allow for us as the public to get involved in the political conversation in sort of an easier way than some of the other options that we have. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing to use memes all the time, but it is a way for us to feel like we have some agency in this huge conversation, right? Joe, do you feel like memes are positive or negative for our political conversation?
I think it's positive. It still gives you a way of, saying that even if you say you don't care, you actually do because you took the time behind like some of it. So I think it's good. It gets just another level of participation in the great debate,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're used in a serious context or on the, the other side of it, like you're just making a laughing matter of it or you really don't care.
Yeah,
it's still better than nothing, so it's a new channel of like communication, I guess.
Yeah, especially for people who are younger, like we talked about in the first week, people who are in the millennial generation and even younger now, because of the internet, they want to be able to do things right away. And this is a way to allow for them to do that. So after a debate, they can make a meme and say, this is how we felt about this, rather than writing up a paragraph. And then as they replicate, as they evolve, people can build off of the meme and make it into something else. Right? So I have a love-hate relationship with memes. Obviously, they simplify arguments, but I want people to be able to create even simple arguments in order to get them sort of started.
Like an opinion behind the argument for that.
Exactly. Yeah. So usually in class we do this activity, but just ignore that because we're not going to obviously do that today. So the reading focuses on some memes that are happening during the 2012 presidential campaign. or I'm sorry, 2008 presidential campaign when Clint Eastwood gave a speech at the Republican National Convention to this chair that was supposed to be Barack Obama. So there's a lot more context to that, but he had hoped that he would present this sort of like kind of a little bit of a joke about like this chair is empty because Barack Obama isn't really doing his job. But what ended up happening during that was that people felt like Clint Eastwood was very disconnected, and it sort of just, you know, there were some ageist critiques where it was like he looked like he was someone who was old, who didn't really know what was happening. So after that happened, there were memes going around making fun of Clint Eastwood like this one. But the important thing here, and the reason why they're using this, is your article wants you to start thinking about how politicians are utilizing these meme conversations in order to build their brand. Right? So memes are originally things of the people, but now politicians are creating things like meta memes, which the reading calls memes about memes, right? Or another way of putting that is the use of a meme to reframe the original conversation from the original memes. Right? And so Barack Obama did this. I'll show you an example so you can sort of get a better example of a better understanding of this. So in response to all those things about talking to a chair, an empty chair, Barack Obama tweeted this photo, and if you can't see at the top, he says, "This seat's taken," along with this photo. And so his meta meme was a simple like, bam, I am in the president's chair. I don't need to be in this chair that Clint Eastwood is talking about.
So to stop here right there. So it's not necessarily the same actual meme. It's just a creation of another meme that steals like kind of that context that it was there, but just twists it a little bit. Okay.
Exactly.
I always, for some reason, thought it was utilizing the same meme just with different wording or something like that, but which can happen, I assume.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So it can happen in many different ways, but the idea is like you're using something from that original memed conversation and you're twisting it in a way that works for your political brand.
Okay. So it could be the wording or it could be the picture or
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it could go many different ways, but this one is pretty powerful because it's sort of short and sweet. And I think meta memes, when you spend too much time on them or you elaborate, like if he would have had a sentence or something with this, it wouldn't have done the job of just even having the photo, right? Even just having the photo without the seats taken is a pretty powerful way to respond to the making fun of Clint Eastwood memes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any questions about this before so this is one of the theoretical frameworks that this article is working with, the idea of memes and the way that politicians use meta memes to change the conversation. Any questions about that part?
No.
Okay, cool. I won't make us go over this other one. This is a more recent meme, but we won't do that because I want to make sure we can get through this. Okay, so the next theoretical framework that we have is something called political fragmentation. So political fragmentation is the understanding that politicians are framing their brands using small pieces of their huge puzzle, right? So in other words, they're using all of these little small ideographs in order to tell people who they are, and they're never giving people their full picture, right? So this is something that can be really good and it can be really bad, right? So I think that the positive part of this is because we as people are so complex, if you're trying to sell yourself, it's probably good that you're able to sell yourself using ideographs or small pictures of who you are, right? Because that makes it so that people who are voting are able to easily make a decision. Like, I like this person because they're a mother, or I like this person because they are really concerned about immigration, right? All of those puzzle pieces we can just connect to, and we don't have to connect to like the background about why they chose to do that sort of stuff. But the bad thing is sort of in everything that I just said as well, right? So the bad thing is that many people are making simple decisions when in fact, those of us who study rhetoric and who study politics don't want you to make the easy decisions, right? We actually do want you to have to do the research and look into why they made the decisions about immigration, right? So I see the positives, but as someone who studies rhetoric, for me, it is mostly negative that we have political fragmentation, right?
And it works both ways, though, too. I mean, it's like just as much as the politicians, as much as it is the voters, you know, to like not just fall for that kind of that you know, whether if it's just easy on the eyes type thing, or if it just looks good on like that, you know, 5-second clip or picture or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
do your own homework too to look past those kind of use of media or the images and stuff like that.
exactly. Yeah. So it's not necessarily on the politicians who are doing this, right? They're sort of doing it because they know that a lot of people who vote want to make the simple decision. It's sort of like the way that the news frames the choices that they make, right? So we're going to choose to focus on drama and conflict because we are convinced that that's what the viewers want.
Yeah.
Right. And until the voters tell politicians that is, they do not want political fragmentation, then I don't think politicians are going to change that. Right. So a good way of looking at this is even by the use of like a Twitter bio. And this is, your article gets into this too, but if you look at more recent candidates, you can see how they did this as well. But this is Hillary Clinton's Twitter bio when she first got on Twitter. So you can see the way she's fragmented herself. And she sort of started with like, the most important stuff is the family, right? And then all of these other things are fragmentations as well that she hopes at least some people in the public will say, oh, this is why I want to vote for you, right? Like for me, when I see dog owner, I'm like, okay, sold. Yeah. I'm mostly kidding for that, but you can see how she's trying to make it a little bit easier. And this is something a little more recent when she was running for president in 2016, right? So she could tell us she didn't change a whole lot. She took out dog owner, so she lost me in this election, right? But she kept hair icon, which in this fragmentation, we can see that like, not only is she proud about being a family woman, she also can make fun of herself, right? And you know, we've talked about whether she's funny or not, but even just seeing this fragmentation can say, okay,
the pantsuit aficionado, you know, it gives you that kind of little like, oh, you got the sense of humor to you, I get it, haha.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. And some of us are like, that's not really funny, but at least we can see that she can make fun of herself.
Yeah.
So they use this to say, okay, so we obviously have memes that we're working with, and then we have fragmentation. So this means that this politically fragmented world is a perfect place for politicians to take control of these memes, right? Because memes are just another way to fragment your image, right? So far, those are the two theoretical frameworks. The last one is post-feminism. So this is one of the questions that you all had to answer. And this is one that I think a lot of people had trouble with because there are different ways to define it. Joe, do you want to try it? Do you want to try to define post-feminism?
I was rereading my answer real quick, but
that's okay.
It's kind of is post-fem like in this aspect, is it where they kind of like use it to promote like women's rights or somebody's rights, but at the same time they're doing it in injustice? Like, is that kind of like, that's kind of the context I got out of, but it was really kind of hard to like explain it in like on paper, you know, if that was kind of what I took from most of it.
Yeah, so post-feminism is difficult to define because it sort of works against a lot of the stuff that we're taught in the COMS studies department. Post-feminism in this context, in this reading, states that we are in a world that no longer needs feminism. So in other words, the people who are on board with post-feminism are like, we no longer need to fight for equal rights in the workplace. We no longer need to worry about the way women are treated on the streets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So they tend to focus on things like women's empowerment, right? So they're thankful that we had the first and the second wave of feminism, because we wouldn't be where we are today without those waves.
Exactly.
But now they're saying, if you're a post-feminist, you say, thank you, but I can do this on my own now, right? You created an environment that works well for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is not something that I think in most comm studies places we focus, or classes, we focus so much on feminism and how valuable feminism is, that we don't look at this other perspective. This other perspective is something that's definitely out there in a lot of places, like in smaller towns in the Midwest. And it typically comes from people who are like, typically white upper middle class women, have an easier time getting on board with post-feminism because they may not see any of the barriers that other people see.
Okay.
So from their perspective,
they don't come with the other social, like,
like the class stuff or like the race stuff. Like they don't have to see all of the struggles that maybe women of color have to deal with, and the fact that feminism could maybe help them out, right? Okay. So this isn't something that you have to be on board with. The reason why the article is picking it out is that they feel like there are some people who utilize this post-feminist argument to then make us feel okay that, Hillary Clinton, she got as far as she got, and that's great, right? And it makes us actually like forget that a lot of the reason why she didn't win, at least one of the reasons why, is that she is a woman and she was working against the expectation of a masculine leader, right? Which is something we talked about last week or the week before.
Okay.
So they're not saying that this is true. They're just saying this is what some people see to be true.
Okay. So is it like we're trying to like say at the same time, I guess, two things, this kind of maybe a question or like my statement from my understanding, is that it's either like, okay, we don't want the rah-rah behind like, okay, like the pushing of the like feminist movement. And also with that, it's kind of the undermining like, okay, well, yeah, like Hillary Clinton's there, or like whoever, for whatever thing it is in society, obviously in our case politics, but it's like we just acknowledge that like, okay, well, that's as far as you're ever really going to get, or just like it's good enough, for right now, so it's like we're doing our part in society to keep the equal rights there.
Yeah. They would say it's not because she's a woman that she didn't get voted in.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with her gender. It has more to do with all of these other things.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense, even if you don't agree with it?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yes.
Okay. So these three things are sort of coming together, and it's complicated that they used all three as their theoretical framework, but hopefully once you see some of these memes and we sort of talk through it, you'll be able to see how they're sort of all meshing together. Right? Okay. So we don't have too much longer. We just have to look at the examples. So this is the photo that the memes were based on. So you could sort of see in this photo, some people, so yesterday in my class, I was like, what are you reading about her? Do you see her as, do you see this as positive or negative? And some of them were like, well, she looks like she's bored, right? And other people said, actually, she looks like she's really busy. Right. So something that's important when you're thinking about political fragmentation is that even though the reading has something very specific to say about the way they feel the memes are functioning, it really does depend on the way you saw Hillary Clinton before you looked at the memes.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of when I saw it, I just thought about the email thing. I didn't even like look at like that was the only thing. I didn't look at her facial expression. I just noticed the cell phone. It was the first thing my eye just instantly took me to like.
Yeah, that's
that type of moment, so it kind of did give me a negative impact, and that's without any writing on it or anything or what they're trying to convey or.
Yeah. So and what's interesting is, of course, this is happening before the email scandal, right? So she's Secretary of State at this time. I mean, maybe the email scandal is happening at this very moment. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the image like right now,
Yeah, yeah. So they use this because the tweets from Hillary guys felt like this made her look empowered, right? So that was their perspective on what she was doing here, right? She kind of looked like she was cool because she's wearing sunglasses inside. She's doing, it seems like, a lot of work. So they took this and they made a couple of memes. So I'm going to show you the memes that they talked about in the reading so you can actually visualize. I'm going to go through them, and then after we get to the fourth one, we'll talk about whether you think this was positive or negative for Hillary Clinton's image. And remember, we're talking about this before she runs for president in 2016. Okay, so think about, like, she's trying to recover from the loss against Barack Obama. Okay, so that's the context that we're trying to work with. So here we go. I'm not going to read them because I know it makes it even less funny if I read them out loud. Okay. And then this is the last one. So it's important to note, so just to really stress, Hillary Clinton is not the one who's doing this. There are two guys on Tumblr just sort of felt like she looked like she was a badass, and so they wanted to make these photos look more like she was a badass. So do you feel like these memes did that? Did they add to that fragmented image of her, or create that fragmented image of her that she is this like really cool, hardworking woman?
Yeah, I think I support it. It's kind of, it's kind of the context that I got, or like the notion that the vibe she still gives off, even with the, the addition of the pictures and the wording.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more of that, she's just focused kind of like in her own, like, maybe she'd focus on the politics side of things again, or her next move.
Yeah, exactly. And she has like really cool friends, and she's too cool for the Daily Show. She's going on to even bigger and better things. Like, so your authors say that superficially, like, that's what they see happening as well. But something that they're really concerned about is that these memes are reinforcing this post-feminist argument that despite her loss, Hillary Clinton is in a powerful position, and we don't need to worry about gender dynamics, right? She sort of actually got what she wanted, and she's doing what she wanted to do, right? So that's what your authors are worried about. You don't have to agree with the way they're saying this, but just see that they're sort of trying to dig deep and be like, oh, I'm afraid that some people might think that she's overcome this when maybe she hasn't.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay.
So the last one, just to sort of show you, this is how Hillary Clinton created her own meta meme. This is coming from Hillary Clinton's Twitter, and the two guys in the middle. So these two guys are the two guys who created the Tumblr. For some people, so I know, Joe, you're doing a lot of work for everyone in the class, so I'll tell you how some of my other classes read this. So yesterday in my class, my students actually thought that this actually added some positive to her image, because like you said earlier, in the way she fragmented herself, she's sort of showing that she's not taking herself too seriously.
Exactly.
And I would say that it's still sort of, if we dig a little deeper, it's getting at this idea that, like, she's not allowed to show that she's upset about the place that she's in, right? Because if she shows that she's upset, then she's showing things like adversity, which is something we said feminine people are not supposed to show, right? Sometimes my classes actually find this to be detrimental to her image, because they feel like, even in the context of the time she's using this, like, she's trying too hard with using things like so
they might get that feel.
Yeah, so again, this is all about your perspective, and probably has more to do with how you viewed Hillary Clinton before you saw this, than how you are looking at this just on its own. The final thing and the really important thing that you're getting from this, that they end with on the final page, is that memes are this interesting thing that both allow you sometimes to take down hegemonic structures, right? So sometimes you can start to chip away at them by making a joke about how ridiculous something is. But sometimes in that same joke, someone will read it in a different way, and that reinforces the hegemonic structure, right? The gender dynamics that we already see. And so your authors are just trying to say, we should continue to use memes, but we should also be aware about how we might be doing these two different things at the exact same time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of questions do you have about this, or frustrations, or like what in the world are they doing?
I don't so much. I kind of get it now. I understand, the context that it's it's used in, and then obviously this particular picture's case, I kind of get where she's trying to go, or trying to kind of have her play on it.
Yeah, like brand herself. Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows, it's all in the context of how much you're really invested in it, into Hillary Clinton, into this type of media structure, I guess you'd say, or communication channel, because it might have an effect on you. You might not notice it. You might look past it. It might do its job, so it's all depends on relevancy, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Which is, a lot about political communication. So
yeah.
The last thing, so in the thing that you're going to have to do after spring break is over, so I think it's due like the Saturday at the end of spring break, you're going to have to find a meme and then create your own meta meme.
Okay.
I've given you like a link to be able to do it, but if that link, like you can't figure out how to use that website, a different way, I don't care how you do it, just work on creating the meta meme. Even if you just write, like, this is what the meta meme would look like, that's fine by me. I just want to see you try to do the exercise of like seeing a meme and then trying to reframe it.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, hopefully you can make your appointment on time.
And yes, thank you. I know I was actually going to run out here, and I just didn't want to be rude at the end of it.
It's good. We're all good. Have a good spring break. And
okay.
Maybe
so
I'll see you. Oh, yeah.
We have spring break next. Is there going to be, so is it next week? I haven't even looked at the calendar.
Next week, there's nothing going on. Just know that you have something due that next Saturday, like the Saturday at the end of spring break.
Okay.
So if you want, you could do it this Saturday. It's open already.
Okay. And then obviously the project, but okay.
Yeah. And the reading comprehension questions, we'll start all over again.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, cool. All right. Have a good break.
Thank you.